Greetings from Bulgaria, I am Anton, and in this tutorial we will discuss what is the difference between Modal Dialog Boxes, alerts, and how to handle them with Selenium WebDriver. Also, additionally, we will see how to handle pop-ups. So, in this video, first we are going to discuss what is Modal Dialog Boxes. We will see them in action, a particular demo, we are going to automate them. Additionally, we will see a more complex scenario with the Bootstrap CSS framework with different inputs and more buttons. Then we're going to discuss what are alerts and how we can use the Selenium API and built-in methods to handle them and work with them. Lastly, in short, we're going to discuss what are the pop-ups and how to automate them. If you haven't subscribed for the channel, please do so. Hit the ring notification bell so that you get notified when we release new videos each week. Also, be sure to check LambdaTest blog, where there are many detailed articles about many of the nowadays problems in automated testing with solutions. And of course, in the description below you will find a link to the GitHub repo with all the examples that you can download and you can play with. So let's begin. First, what is a Modal Dialog Box? Let me show you a short demo. We're going to use in most of our demos the LambdaTest Selenium Playground, which is an excellent resource in order to practice your Selenium knowledge. And here we have a page called Bootstrap Modals, where this is a Modal Dialog Box. So the Modal Dialog Boxes can be built using different web frameworks. For our demos, we will use Bootstrap Framework, which is here, right? Bootstrap. Which offers Bootstrap Modal Window, and the Modal Dialog Boxes gets displayed on top of your current page. Due to this, Modal Boxes need to be interacted with first before moving to the current web page, like in our example. So we need to click it and then we can continue. So the Bootstrap framework is very popular, it's free, it's open source. It's a CSS framework that is highly used in web page development, especially for responsive and mobile-first web pages. It contains HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And a Modal Dialog Box written with Bootstrap is found with three key components. Namely, first, you have the trigger, which is the element which triggers the modal window to be shown on the web page. It can be any link on the web page or any button, etc. Then you have the modal, which is likely holding an area for the actual modal window code that will come up when the trigger element is interacted with. When we inspect the element, and if I zoom in, you will see that we have here this div with ID my modal. This is the modal that is holding the area. And then we have the modal content. This is the actual code and the content with which the window is formed and displayed as per the implementation. This is usually hidden here, especially in Bootstrap. It's here in this div with class modal body. So we're going to work with these three in our demos. So when writing automated tests that contain Modal Dialog Boxes, we first find the modal window using WebDriver, then identify the modal content inside of it to perform the actions. So in our first demo, we are going to launch this web page. Then we are going to find this particular button. There are two ways how you can do that, since it doesn't have any ID. We can find it by text using find elements, and then maybe we can get the first one because there are two of them. Second way is to use this unique title here and then find the button using XPath access. Or if we zoom in, you will see that we have for the buttons or links that are used as triggers, we have this data/target attribute. So we can write an XPath. Here we can test it. We can create it like this: //button. Then we name the attribute data target with add up front. And then here I will paste my model. This will be our unique XPath to launch the button. After we launch the button, first we'll have to wait for model to appear, because in certain cases, depending on where your server is, it might be slow. So you might be, I will show you how we can use WebDriver wait to wait for the model to appear. And then as we discuss, we first are going to find this or this div, it doesn't matter. So we can find it by ID here, my model, or you can directly find this by class Modal Dialog. It's up to you, it's the same. Then our second thing will be to find the content, which is the model body. And then inside of it, using XPath, I will show you a little bit of a trick to search inside other elements. We're going to locate the text and the buttons. That will be our test. Again, in the links below, you can find and download the source code that I'm going to show you. So here it is. First, let me just in 30 seconds explain the structure of the project. Here we use Java setup with Selenium. We use Maven for dependencies. And if you are not familiar how to set up JUnit, Selenium, and Maven, I suggest you to check the other videos on the LambdaTest channel. There is a whole series about JUnit and Selenium 4 where I explain in details how to set up this properly. But in short, here in the Maven POM XML, I added all of the necessary Selenium dependencies and JUnit ones. So we have Selenium and WebDriver Manager. As you know, Selenium WebDriver Manager, we use it to download the proper driver based on the version of your particular browser. So we have a regular class here under the test folder. We have a reference to the Firefox driver, which will be this way we will work with Firefox browser. Before all of the tests, we are using WebDriver Manager, Firefox driver to download the correct version of the Firefox driver depending on the installed version. And before each test, we are starting a new instance of the Firefox browser. We maximize it, and then we are initializing the WebDriver wait. That's all. And then we have all of the different tests that we are going to discuss now with the pop-ups, alerts, and everything. After all of the tests, we are closing the browser. That's all. If you need to execute your tests in the cloud, in LambdaTest cloud, then we are doing almost the same thing, but we are not using WebDriver Manager because we are executing in the cloud. Then we need to get using environmental variables your username and key. Then we need to build your unique hub URL that we pass to the remote WebDriver, and we initialize some capabilities like which is the desired browser. Here I'm saying that I want the latest. We are passing, and we need to initialize this hash map of LambdaTest options that we pass to the capabilities. And here I enabled the CDP integration. I named that I want Windows 10 and Selenium 4. After that, the tests are the same, and the tests will be executed in the cloud. So let's return to our tests. As I said, we're launching here the web page that I showed you before with Bootstrap model. Then, as I explained, I use this data target attribute with the 𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒏 to locate the launch button, which is our trigger. This is this button here, so we click it, and then we wait here for the model to show up. In order to wait for it, I'm using the instance that we already initialized for the WebDriver wait, and we wait for visibility of the element located by the class name Modal Dialog Box. And I named this web element Modal Container. As I said, this is the main container of the modal box in which we are going to search for the modal body. So we are waiting for this element to exist on the page to be displayed, so we are sure that the Modal Dialog box is already there and loaded. And then our second job is to find the body. As I explained, this is a separate div, the body. This is the body here, which holds the content and the buttons. So we're going to search not in the whole page, but just inside this particular div here. In order so we are going to find it by class. So in order this to work, we're going to use 𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒏, and in order the 𝒏𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒏 not to search in the whole page, but inside the element itself, in this case the modal container, then we need, in front of the 𝒏𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒏, we need to use this dot. This dot instructs WebDriver that we are going to search with this 𝒏𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒏 inside the particular element, in this case modal container. So this is how we are locating the body. After we have the body, we can just say, give me the text here, and I'm just asserting that the text is there. This is the text inside the model. And then in order to find the actual Save Changes button, as you can see here, even here we don't need actually contains. You can just use regular 𝒏𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒏 text equals Save Changes. This is fine. But again, don't forget that we need the dot in order to search inside the modal container. And then we click it, and that's all. Let's run the test. Here it is, it launched, and the test is green. This was our first test. Now, let's discuss the second, more complicated scenario, again on the same demo page. It's more complex modal dialog box. In this case, as you can see in the modal content body, we have a second button that will trigger a second modal dialog box. Yeah, so here, on top of the things that we did before, as you can see here, I selected the button that it's inside the already launched first modal dialog box. We can find it as before using this data target my second modal. This is something unique again, so we're going to build the same 𝒏𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒏 but for the second modal. After we launch it, we need again to repeat the whole procedure. We're going to find the container of the second modal box, and then we're going to search inside of this element for the second modal dialog box body. We're going to verify the text, click Save Changes, and that's it. For the second modal dialog box, the locators are similar. First, we're going to wait for this particular element with this ID, my second modal, which if you paid closer attention, this is actually the same as the content inside the data target attribute. And then the class here, modal body, since we are searching directly only in this container, will be unique using the .𝒏𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒏 syntax. That's all, nothing more. So let's examine what we are doing. It's up to you whether, again, to find the first trigger button by this complex XPath, which is basically finding the div by the label up top and using XPath access, or find it by the data trigger attribute. It's up to you, but basically this will fire the first modal dialog box. Again, we're waiting for the first container by its ID. We're waiting for this element, and we're initializing the first modal container. Inside of it, using again dot, we're finding the body by its class. Then we're asserting the text. As you can see, it's unique text. Click launch modal button to launch the second model. Then we're going to, again, we search for inside the body for the second button. Again, we search it by its data/target, my second model, as I explained before. We click on it. This will fire the second modal dialog box. Again, we need to wait for it, so I'm waiting for its container by ID, my second modal. Inside this second modal container, we find its body, again using dot, don't forget for it, otherwise you probably will find the first one. We again verify the text of the second modal dialog box. We find in the second modal container the Save Changes button, here again using dot, and we click accept, and then we find the first modal dialog box, Save Changes, and we close it. That's all. Now, something a little bit more funny and more complex. In some cases, some of the modal dialog boxes are actually more complex. They have more fields in there, and this is something that you can achieve using Bootstrap. And here is an example. Here I have this trigger element, open modal for something. When I click it, as you can see, it's a whole form where we can enter recipients, we can enter a message, we can click send message, close button, etc. And we can reuse this component modal dialog box in many places. Usually in these cases, when we have these reusable components, we want to abstract the code and not repeat it everywhere inside of our tests. If you have, probably you used in your career, you had to automate select drop-downs. As you know, in Selenium support, we have this select element that accepts another element, and after that we can select by tag, select by index, whatever. So we are going to implement something similar for our complex, I named it complex modal dialog box, but it's up to you how you are going to name it. So inside our source folder, I created a class that will be basically our wrapper element. And let me explain all of the methods here. So our class, complex modal dialog box, it holds reference to the driver and how this element is located. We have two constructors. The first one, the default one, we accept the driver and the bilocator. It's up to you whether sometimes you may have just another ID or classes, so maybe we need this constructor in this case. Otherwise, by default, this container it's named by class modal dialog. After that, we have all of the different methods here. First, again, using the dot syntax for the XPath, we find the close button. And of course, it's important that we have here our two helper private methods. The first one is again using WebDriver wait. We're waiting for the visibility of the model itself to appear. And then we have another getter for getting the body. Again, it's the same default model, and we search for the same class modal body, right? and then all of the elements we're searching inside this modal content body. So we have our first method, which is we want to be able to close it, to click the send messages button, to set text, and to send recipients. That's everything we want to be able to do here. So for the close button, we find it by text. So we have, basically we find the button by close text, and then we click it. For the same send messages is the same. We find the button that its text is send message, then we click it. And then for set message and set recipients, we just find the both inputs. Actually, one of them is text area, but we find here the text area for the message text box by ID. We clear its default content, we send the message, the same for the recipient. That's it. And after that, I'm navigating here in my test. How I use it is that I navigate to this page. I click on the trigger button to fire this complex modal dialog box. Then I initialize my complex modal dialog box class. I pass the driver, so I will use the default by class here to find the container itself, since I'm using the default one for Bootstrap. Then I set recipient, send message, or I can close it. That's all. Here I just click on the send message button. That's all of it. Two more things. First, what are the words? I have another demo for you. For the words on the Playground website, there is here a separate section called JavaScript Awards. So probably you have seen them when you click. This is the default JavaScript award. We have different flavors of them. So alerts in web development usually refer to a message or notification that lets the user know about information, namely asking for access permissions, highlighting mandatory fields on a form, displaying a warning message, or help information. And unlike Modal Dialog Boxes, Selenium offers some special functions to deal with alerts. And this is because it's very tricky and time-consuming task for testers to automate alerts using regular methods. Let's now discuss the demo. First, we have again here trigger buttons. I found them here using XPath locating basically here first this particular div, and then using XPath access I'm locating the button. But the main thing is how we handle the alert itself. So here in this test verify alerts, I'm navigating to the demo website. Again, we are finding the div using text equal the label, and then following sibling we are basically finding if here is the div, then we are finding the button below it. That's how we located it, because otherwise all the buttons have the same name. So we trigger the alert. In order to get the text inside the alert, we get it from driver switch to alert. This alert method gives you access to all of the different methods that are dealing with alerts. Using getText, we can verify the text inside the alert, or by calling the accept method, we're going basically to click OK or OK and close the alert by accepting it. Then in the second example that I showed you, here we have only one button, OK, but here we have OK and cancel. In this case, we can not agree or dismiss the alert. In this case, we have another method, switch to alert dismiss. This will basically simulate clicking cancel. And in the cases where, as in our third example here, we can enter a random text here, and our input will be displayed here. So in my test, I'm clicking the button, I'm typing the text and then verifying this label. But basically, the main thing that you need to remember is that the alert method is giving you, again, send keys method that basically allows you to type if this alert is an input alert. After that, everything is the same. And lastly, there will be a dedicated video about pop-ups. But just in short, what are the pop-ups? Pop-ups refer to a new window, or tab that pops up and gets opened as a result of some interaction on the web page. It can come up in a number of conditions as per implementation. And in Selenium automation, the driver always focuses on the current active window and it interacts with it. So whenever we are working with pop-ups in Selenium, some additional methods are used to shift the driver focus to the newly opened instance. Here there is a short demo. Again, there will be a much more detailed video about them. Using get window handle, we can get the ID of the current window. And in order to focus, using get window handles, we can get all opened windows in the current Selenium session. When we for each that, there is a method to the switch to method called window, where if we pass the window handle, or basically the window ID, we are switching the focus of WebDriver to this particular window, and then we can start interact in this particular instance. If we, when you call driver close, this will close the window, and then if we want to return and interact with the main window, then we need to call switch to default content. This will basically switch the focus of the WebDriver to the original web page. Again, stay tuned for the next video about them. So, thank you for watching. If you have any comments or problems, put them in the comment section below. I will be really happy to hear what your thoughts, and if you have any recommendations about future topics. Also check out the LambdaTest blog and the community website. There are many detailed articles about all of these problems that are really well written and will help you definitely. And of course, don't forget to get your free Selenium certification and JUnit on the LambdaTest website. So stay safe and wait for many awesome new videos. Bye.